Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining me tonight as we chat a little bit about what the Plus program is for She Codes and how it runs, a little bit of information about the program and how you might be able to apply. And then we've got a number of our mentors and alumni on the call who are going to answer a couple of questions at the end. We will have a little bit of time for questions at the end of my presentation and then during the discussion. But if you want to just stay on mute until then, that would be great, just so we don't have interruptions during the slides. This is being recorded. It's very awkwardly said about 2 minutes ago. So if you need a refresh, you can watch this recording again later, or feel free to reach out to Angela or the team. Angela or the team. So for those of you who I haven't met, my name is Kate. I'm founder of She Codes. I'm going to be your facilitator for the session tonight. And hopefully you know that the goal of this session is to find out a little bit more about the program and chat to some of our alumni and mentors. If you haven't been to or heard anything that we've done before, we've got a pretty crazy ambitious goal here at She Codes, which is to create an inclusive community of 100,000 women in tech across Australia by 2025. And yes, it absolutely scares the crap out of me that it is already the beginning of 2023. So we've got a lot of work to do in the next couple of years. But this number comes from a bunch of different places. I've been doing this for nearly 8 years now, and there is a huge diversity problem in tech. There has been for a long time, and it's not changing as quickly as we would like. And I was trying to teach myself how to code and found that the communities that existed weren't very beginner friendly, weren't very female friendly. So we created a community, and it's really about having that network of like-minded women with our male allies supporting us along the way, of course. Like-minded women who are learning together and have a safe space to be able to ask questions and progress through our learning journey, and then have support when we're in industry as well. So that was sort of where we started. And hopefully, yes, my next slide is this kind of a little bit of my why and our why of why we do this. So only 29% of technical roles, roles in tech are held by women, and the wording of that is very important because roles in tech is different to technical roles. It's more like 10% of software developers are women. I know less than 30% of the entire industry is women, which I just don't think is good enough. There's also a diversity problem in the rest of levels of diversity as well. So less than 30% is ethnically diverse. But we also know that 75% of the fastest growing jobs require some level of technical skills. And post-COVID, during COVID, I don't know that we can really say that we're post-COVID yet. I only had it a couple of weeks ago and I'm still struggling with COVID exhaustion. So I don't know that we're quite out of the woods on post-COVID yet. But in the last couple of years, the explosion in the industry is growing really rapidly, and they're predicting that we need another 2 million people in tech over the next 5 years for Australia to stay globally competitive, which is crazy because we don't have currently ways to be able to train enough people to be able to do that. So that's some of the reasons of driving why we do this for women, and why we think it's really important to have opportunities and programs like this. But just because that's our why doesn't mean that that's your why. And we've got lots of different entry and exit points along the journey as well, because not everyone's learning journey is exactly the same. So our current programs that we offer, we do a one-day workshop, which we're doing 4 times a year in Perth and twice a year in Brisbane and Sydney. And I have absolutely no idea of any of the dates for that. But if you're interested, let us know and we can definitely send you them. I just don't know them off the top of my head. Then we created Flash, which is our 1-week program, which we haven't been doing for the last sort of year or so. But Flash was that intermediate point between I've come to a one-day workshop and I've fallen in love with tech and I can see that there's opportunities available to me. And now I want to kind of dig a little bit deeper. Then we've got Plus, which is what we're talking about tonight, which is really for people who are have explored, they've figured out that tech is something that they want to do. They've got clear career goals and pathways of where they want to be, and just need that kickstart to get them there. Then we have relationships with a whole heap of different companies for internships and job opportunities. And then hopefully you will come back and share your experiences as mentors or being on discussions like this. So you'll hear from some of our alumni in a moment as well. So tonight we're talking about She Codes Plus. So She Codes Plus is, as I mentioned, a 6-month program designed to really supercharge the tech journey. It's 6 months, it's part-time, and it's outside of business hours. And when we were designing this, I was really looking at like, how do we do things that are radically different to the current methods that are available, and talk to a whole heap of women about what some of the barriers are. And a lot of the barriers were that other programs are full-time, they're during business hours, which just isn't practical for a lot of people who have a full-time job to balance, or have family commitments, or just life gets in the way. So this is part-time, it is all outside of business hours, and a lot of our alumni have been able to juggle a bunch of things along the way. And we do have fully funded places so that we can offer spots to people that really need them, as well as some partially funded scholarships, bringing down the cost to something that's a lot more manageable than enrolling in a full-time boot camp, or going through a university formal education pathway, which just isn't possible for a lot of people. So that is the program. We're going to chat a little bit about what we teach. So our tech stack, and it is totally okay if you have no idea what any of these words mean. That's totally fine. We are starting from the beginning in each of these languages, but we start in HTML and CSS. We're teaching in Python. Then we do Django and the Django REST framework, before moving into JavaScript and React. When we wrap it all together with a group project working collaboratively in teams to build a full stack application for a client in the last couple of weeks of the program. So how we do this is very very project-based, because I think it's really important to have a place to implement not just the theory, but actually getting your hands dirty and writing some code and making mistakes and fixing them, and really learning through doing is a lot of how we operate at She Codes. And it's also about the opportunity to work with other people, and it's not a classroom. It really is more of a hands-on workshop format, working in pairs or working on your own projects over the course of the 6 months. Also, very fun means that you, by the end of it, you've all developed a portfolio of work. So when you're applying for job opportunities, or even just showing people what you've created, you can be like, hey, I built a thing. You can look at it rather than, hey, I learned a bunch of theory and I can talk to you about it. It's a much more powerful way to be able to show the code and show what you've been able to produce, and as well as showing a little bit of your creativity and personality along the way through those projects. And I think it's really important that it is more than just code. So it's about working with others, practicing presentation skills. We talk about role models, building a network of peers and industry mentors, building confidence and being able to ask for help, which I know that sounds really silly, but it's really hard when you have to admit, like, actually, I don't know anything, and let's, feel really stupid for a second, and that's okay, because everybody else is in the safe space with us and figuring out how to ask for help and progress to the next step. Yeah. And I think there's some really interesting stories that I've heard over the last couple of years of some of my alumni who've ended up Some of my last Perth girls have like a semi-regular brunch catch up, and some of them have ended up in like a housemate living situation. They work together. There's really these close-knit bonds of an experience that you've gone through with other people, that you just don't kind of get a lot of opportunities to do that in everyday world, especially as adults. We're all really busy, and it's really hard to kind of form those closer relationships, but there is something really powerful about going through a shared experience together. There's a little bit about outcomes. So, you know, it's nice if we all become friends and get some confidence, but does it actually work? Do people end up in jobs? 72% of our alumni are currently working in technical jobs, which I think is absolutely amazing. I'm going to hear from a couple of them in a moment. Of our last program, so 100% feel like they've achieved their program goals, which is amazing, and think that they'll use at least one of their newfound skills, which is amazing as well. So we really tweak as much as possible to try and shape things to being as industry relevant as possible. And the way that we teach is through industry mentors. So people who are actively working in the field, in jobs, they can tell you about the companies they're working for, how they do things in the real world, what's kind of worked for them along their journey as well, trying to make it as really as relevant an industry useful as possible, not just learning some theory from, you know, years ago when content was created. So that's a little bit about the program. So a little bit about where we're kind of going from here. So this sounds like a really long time away, but there's a lot of things that happen between now and the program starting. So tonight we have just opened applications for Brisbane. So these dates are just relevant for Brisbane. If you're anywhere other than Brisbane, this will not be relevant for you. But tonight, Brisbane's opening. They're starting on the 2nd of May, and applications have just opened today. They will be open until the 5th of March. So it's like 6 weeks or so to develop those applications for Brisbane. Then we go through a shortlisting and an interview period to have a chat with people about, you know, what their career aspirations are, and chat a little bit about their application and how we may or may not be able to support. Then we'll announce the cohort in April. You've got a few weeks to prepare, figuring out life before the program starts in May, and that will run through till the end of October. And then we have a showcase at the end of October, which is the big celebration night where you get to show friends, family, industry, everyone what you've been working on over the course of the last 6 months. So as I mentioned, this is just Brisbane that we're talking about today. There will be an in-person info night in Brisbane on Wednesday. So if you, Wednesday this week, like in 2 days. So if you're in Brisbane and still sitting on the fence at the end of this call, come along again on Wednesday, because it's a really good chance to chat to other people about their experiences. There's a few more of our alumni going to be chatting about what they've been working on post-program, different faces from what you're hearing tonight. And really just kind of get to be part of the experience. And there's snacks and drinks and cupcakes, and it's going to be a really fun time. I unfortunately will not be in Brisbane, so you won't get to hear from me, but you'll be in very good hands with the crew over there. If you're in anywhere that's not Brisbane, that we are hoping to run a program in Perth and in Sydney later this year. And the rest of this information is going to be correct for you as well. So in terms of what we teach in the program, how we teach, our delivery style, all of that kind of stuff is exactly the same, but the dates will not be. So stay tuned and we'll let you know what's happening with dates for Perth and Sydney as we get closer to that point. Oh, I clicked off my thing. Okay, cool. Cool. We've got a little typo about Perth in here. But the sessions will be running on Tuesday nights and Saturday mornings. So we run Tuesday night from 5:30 to 8:30 and Saturdays from 9 till 1. It will be
sorry to interrupt. Are you doing classes on Melbourne as well, or just Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth?
Just Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth at this point. And so tonight's just Brisbane, and then later in the year we will be doing, fingers crossed, be doing Perth and Sydney. We'll let you know when we get there. But we don't currently offer any of our programs in Melbourne. We're hoping to run a one-day workshop a little bit later in the year in Melbourne. I think that's going to be April, May. So you can stay tuned for that one. And if you come tonight, you'll be on our mailing list. So you'll start getting updates when we've got activities happening in your area.
Right.
So classes for Brisbane, so they will be Tuesday nights and Saturday mornings. They will be at the Queensland AI Hub, which is one of our amazing partners, which is in the Precinct building in Fortitude Valley. So that's where classes will be. Unfortunately, we don't have an online option at this stage. Our classes are fully in person, and that's for a number of reasons, but it's primarily so that you can start building those face-to-face, in-person interactions with the rest of the cohort and your team of industry mentors and alumni. Start building those relationships and really get the best out of the learning experience that we don't find is as valuable in a fully online environment. So here's a breakdown of all of the weeks of what we're teaching. So HTML, CSS, Python, Django REST framework, JavaScript, React, and the group project. Don't worry too much about taking notes of all of these dates. We will send them through after this as well. So what do we look for? So this is what I get asked all the time is like, how do I write an application to get a place in the program? So it is a competitive program. So we get anywhere from 80 to 250 applications for 20 to 25 places in the program. So it is a relatively competitive process. But you don't need to be some kind of genius or wizard to get a spot in the program. We're looking for a couple of key things. So really primarily looking for passion. So why are you excited about tech? Where do you see yourself going? What's the opportunity that you can see for yourself and for your community? And just show me how excited you are and tell us a story about that. Vision, what's the goal? Is there a goal that you're working towards? Is there a industry or job that you have in mind that you're like, I think that I could be that person and this is where I'm going towards? Having a clear vision of where you're going makes it a much easier to achieve than I think that I maybe kind of want to be doing something along these lines. If you don't 100% know, that's totally fine. But just try and distill, what are the qualities of what are you looking for, even if you haven't got it all figured out. The more that you know that you do want to do or that you don't want to do, the closer it is to being able to get to that, achieving that goal. The next one is drive. So what's the journey look like and kind of what gets you out of bed in the morning? What's the, have you had to overcome obstacles to get here? How do you quantify, the tenacity of being able to keep going when things get tough? So telling us a little bit about that. Action, like why is now the right time? So timing is super important. So this is a 7-hour-a-week in-person time commitment, plus most of our girls have ended up spending sort of 5 to 10 hours outside of hours in their own time, working on projects or solidifying their learning. So while it's a part-time program, it is still a relatively significant time commitment. So just having to think about how that fits into your life and is now the right time for you. Have you thought about what your support systems are going to be? Have you thought about what your workload is going to be like so that you don't burn yourself out? Why is now the right time? Give back. So how will you be able to give back to the community is mentoring or inspiring other people something that you've already thought about that you want to do, is do you have a project that you have in mind of something that will give back to the community in some way? This isn't essential, but we're a community of women supporting women. And I think that's a really powerful part of this journey, is building that community that is self-sustaining and supportive. And lastly is diversity. So what's your unique value proposition? What makes you unique and special and adds diversity to the cohort? And when I'm talking about diversity, that can talk about all kinds of different things. So that's not just ethnicity, that's age, that's your background, that's what industry you've worked in before. That's just everything that makes you you and your life experiences, and having diversity across the group, I think, is really important, so that we don't have a whole heap of people that are exactly the same, because that's A, not very fun, and B, also just not as productive. There's a whole heap of studies that diversity really brings a whole heap of magical things, and that's all levels of diversity. Cool. So I think we're nearly at the end of my part, and then we're going to have a little bit of a chat with some of our alumni and mentors. To be eligible, so as I mentioned, today we've just opened for Brisbane. So you have to be in Brisbane. You have to identify as a woman, and it's really important for you to know that our definition of women includes all women, including cisgender and transgender women, and those that identify beyond the binary. And we do have a definition on our website at the bottom in the footer of what our definition of women involves. Identifying women, being over the age of 18 for legal reasons, have to be over the age of 18 and have the ability to and right to live and work in Australia for the length of the program. If you have a complicated visa situation, come and have a chat with us about what will and won't work, but essentially just needs to be able to live and work in Australia, mostly so that we can provide employment opportunities through our partners and other things, and so that we can keep that growing community of women across Australia that we talked about at the beginning. Being able to attend at least 80% of classes, because it is really important that you be able to come to the class and learn what we're working on, and spending at least 5 hours a week on projects and other activities. So as I mentioned, thinking about how time fits into your life. Have a passion and desire to learn and have clear career goals to be in tech, ideally as a software developer, because that's the skills that we're going to be teaching over the length of the program. And the most important thing is to be able to submit an application by the 5th of March. So the application link is shecodes.com.au/plus. And I really encourage you to have a little bit of a look through there. And if you or yourself, what am I talking about tonight? You or any of your friends or colleagues or acquaintances are in the Queensland area, please send it through to them to have a little bit of a look if this opportunity is right for them at this point. I also wanted to talk a little bit about our partners before I introduce our panel. So for this program, we are working with some incredible organizations that have made places in this program possible. So we are working with Rio Tinto, and we're working with Midnight Health in Queensland, as well as Space Cubed and the Queensland AI Hub, who've funded to make space and make this possible. And we also have scholarships provided by the federal government's Office for Women, through their leadership and development program. So thanks to our amazing partners, we do have a number of scholarships available that are fully funded. Some that will be for those levels of diversity that we talked about before. So women who identify as neurodiverse, women with disability, women for First Nations women, and women of colour. And women who are unemployed or underemployed and returning to work. We'll also have some community scholarships, so they're open to anyone from any backgrounds. And we'll also have some industry places for people who are within our sponsor organizations who are learning through the course of this program to hopefully move teams from whatever team they're currently in to moving into the software team. So super excited to be able to work with those partners in Brisbane. So I've thrown a bunch of words at you for the last half hour. I'm going to introduce our lovely panel who are going to be having a chat with us tonight. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a second. I can just see Jo's turned her camera back on and has some delightful fluffy thing, which I'm very excited to ask about. So I want to introduce Maria, who is one of our alumni from Perth and is currently a software developer at BHP. Jo Dunham, who is a software engineer at Deputy and has been mentoring for us in Sydney. And Sarah, who is a junior developer at Midnight Health, who is one of our alumni from the Brisbane program. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and have just realized that I need to reopen the tab that I just closed, which is cool. Because I should have just left it open and then I wouldn't have to reopen it. But anyway, that's fine. I'm going to do that and I'm going to get my delightful guests to introduce themselves. So we're going to start with Jo because she has a delightful fluffy thing that I'm very curious about. If you want to say hi, Jo, and tell us a little about yourself and the fluffy thing.
Hello. This is my dinosaur, and he can eat your arm. He's just very good to cuddle. And I just turned my camera off because I wriggle a lot and I thought I'm going to be distracting while you're talking. So I've worked at Deputy for the last 18 months. I graduated from a very similar course to She Codes at Coder Academy, which was, I did part-time for 11 months, I think it was. When I say part-time, I was in the course part-time, working my ass off every waking moment between classes. It's been, before that, I had no background in coding except high school, which was over 20 years ago. Like, I loved computers in high school. I went to go do computers after school and then I didn't. I think the maths degree was offered at a closer campus, so I ended up doing that instead. But I was homeschooling my son before I started the course. So no coding background whatsoever, really, except high school. And it's been really fun. Like, this has been the most fun job that I've had. It's some amazing people that I work with. If you feel like you're getting paid to do crossword puzzles all day, really, there's tech is the most chill industry in the entire world. Like, I've had, before now, I had sort of your mum's jobs that worked around having little kids and those sorts of things. And they're, like, you've got to look a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way. In tech, they're like, bring your colors, bring your tattoo, bring the neuro spicy, swing around in your chair. That's cool. Like, you're just going to fit right in there. And it's been a really awesome job. It's been a really very cool 18 months since being a deputy.
Amazing. Thank you. And does the fluffy thing have a name so I can stop calling it the fluffy thing?
He doesn't. I just refer to him as my dino pillow.
Okay.
He does have a blue stain on this side, which has faded, where I was touching up my hair one time and I forgot that it was still in my hair and I laid on him. So he ends up with sort of some blue bits there. But
we've all been there.
I mean, if someone wants to name him, I'm open to it, or her. I'm not sure. I'm open to names. If you could chuck them in the, do we have a chat?
There is a chat. If anyone wants to name the dinosaur, feel free to throw the chat. And I've 100% been there. I used to have red hair for a period of time and I dyed it and stayed in a hotel room and woke up and had red dye all over the nice white sheets at Crown. I'm like, oh,
not your problem.
It's a very expensive hotel room and your sheets are bright red. Anyway, we will move on to Maria, who's next on my screen. If you want to introduce yourself, Maria. Yeah, sure. So hi everyone, I'm Maria. I graduated from the She Codes Plus program in June. I got a position at BHP whilst I was still on the program, I think about 3 or 4 months in. And I've been working with them as a software developer since I graduated. And I also have some other jobs as well. So I also am a tutor at Kirwin in web development and web design, and looking forward to mentoring for She Codes as well soon. I really love mentoring. I love creating course content, and yeah, so my life is very full since finding She Codes. I love that. Welcome. And last but definitely not least, Sarah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, kia ora koutou katoa. So that's hello everyone in Te Reo Māori. First off, I am from New Zealand. My name is Sarah, and I am a junior software developer at Midnight House. It's going on the 4th week, perhaps. I started, not too long ago, and all is going well. It is fun so far, and a lot of learning. And what I've learned from the She Codes course last year is incredibly relevant and beneficial. So yeah, that's me. Hello.
Amazing. Welcome. I didn't realize you're only in like week 4 of the job. How exciting and how terrifying.
Yes, that's right. Terrifying. Yeah.
I feel like, so my first question was, what's your journey looked like to get into tech? Which I feel like you've all touched a little bit on. Does anyone feel like expanding a little bit on what their journey has been like? Was it a straightforward pathway, or has it been a little bit twisty and turny along the way? I can share if you like. So I'd wanted to learn to code for a long time. I didn't have coding at school, didn't do IT in school, none of that. I didn't even know that existed, if I'm really honest. I studied an art degree and I moved around a lot when I was younger, and I ended up in travel just from traveling a lot. During COVID, overnight, I had a really promising job that just went from a full-time job to 1 day a week. So I pretty much lost my job overnight. So I decided to finally teach myself how to code, because I never wanted to be in that position again, with the job insecurity. I wanted a job for life. I wanted freedom. I wanted flexibility, and I wanted money. So I decided to teach myself to code as like a full-time job. So I'd get up at 9 and I'd turn the computer on and I'd teach myself. I'd have a lunch break. I'd finish at probably 9 because I'm not good at moderation, and burnt out pretty quick. So I was very happy when I found She Codes and had the community and the structure, and all of that kind of stuff. It also helped me to moderate my behavior as well, because I did burn out a bit during then, and the mentors were really good at sharing how not to do that. So that's my journey of how I got into coding. Okay. Amazing. And maybe Sarah, what kind of drew you to a career in tech in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So my background is insurance. So I've been working for 2 insurers before this for the last maybe 4 years. And I've sort of been hopping around or sidestepping sort of the tech industry and being a developer itself for a few years. Opportunities seem to open up to me. She Codes being one, but even earlier than that, a part-time role as a basic front-end developer, learning HTML and CSS in a smaller Brisbane company, and that was in 2017. I sort of just stumbled upon that opportunity and enjoyed it, and then had a brief Ruby on Rails internship, and then went into insurance, and now She Codes was an opportunity, so I jumped at that, and here I am. So it wasn't, I was more of like a drama or arts sort of student at school, so it wasn't a natural affinity. It's more a desire to learn anything and everything under the sun, and I enjoy it, and it's suitably difficult, and yeah, that's how I got into it essentially.
Amazing. Anything you wanted to jump in here, Joe?
About our journey. Like Maria was saying, the structure was a big one for me, because I, for years, tried to learn coding in my own time because I knew I loved it all that time. And I didn't know where to start. I didn't know which language. I would switch languages every other week. And then I'd also forget that I was learning something. And so I would leave it for, like, I'd do it for 2 weeks, and I'd leave it for a month. And then I'm like, crap, I got to start all over again. I'd keep switching languages because I didn't know which ones were relevant. And someone said, hey, over here, if you want to do mobile, you should do this one. And someone's like, what about this? If you should do this one, and what about that? And I just kept switching. I didn't know which direction. I didn't know what connected to what. I didn't know which languages clicked in which with other languages. It was just a mess. So the structure was definitely the big selling point for me as to doing the course without wanting to go back to uni for 4 years.
Amazing. While I've got you here, oh, don't unmute us yet. What do you currently kind of work in predominantly, and what's your what's the most fun project that you've been able to work on in your, either in your work or in your play to date?
Oh, there's a lot, because I don't do as many side projects. You know what? I won't exaggerate. I don't do any side projects outside of work now. I keep meaning to, but life gets in the way. Nowadays, I work with Vue and TypeScript. I've just switched teams. So now I'm learning TypeScript. The languages I actually learnt at Coder Academy are not the languages that I use at work at all. Well, JavaScript, yes, but I had never touched Vue before work, but they don't care. They're like, oh yeah, you'd learnt React. That's pretty close. And they are. And now I'm doing TypeScript, and they're like, well, that's just JavaScript with some extra stuff on top. And it is. Like, once you know one language, jumping to the next one's really not that hard. So I do Vue and TypeScript, mostly front end stuff. Most recently, as far as like what I'm working on that's fun, this is not, it is work, but it's not directly what I do for work. We had a marketing hackathon. And I'm like, are we allowed to do that? Because we're not marketers. They're like, yeah, you can, like, the devs, anyone's welcome to join it. And I won. And so now they're building out my idea, which was, I'm like, it has to do with rainbows and like everything. I'm wearing black, but as Kate will say, most of the time I mean something brighter. But yeah, so we had a marketing hackathon where we had like 3 days to build out an idea for a marketing idea, basically, and our team smashed it. We're halfway through the presentation and they're like, can we just stop you? How are we not doing this already? So we won, which means they're building out our idea. They've put 25 grand toward our team to build it. And we also got some more coin thrown at our team to just have a fun day together. And then we also got some swag. And this is really common in tech. Like it's the most fun job ever. I'm not used to being like rewarded for doing well at work. Like previous jobs that I had, when you did your job well, they rewarded you by giving you somebody else's job on top of your job with no extra pay or whereas these jobs, when you do really well, like you get days off and you get swag and you get recognized. Like it's really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think you also showed me some like crazy random CSS things that you were doing.
Oh yes, when I was learning. So when I was learning how to do everything, I would take it home and go, how can I make this more fun for me? So when we were learning CSS is basically, it makes your HTML is let me put stuff on the screen, words, pictures, blah, blah, blah. Everything's a box, basically. And CSS is like, okay, let's make the box blue. Let's give it rounded edges. Let's give it a red border, blah, blah, blah. And so when we first started learning that, you had a website and you made the heading blue and you underlined it and you put some words here and you moved them over. And like, that's really boring. Like, let's face it, it's boring. So I went home and I discovered you could draw pictures with CSS. And so I drew Astro Boy, and I'm not sure if anyone in this call is old enough to know who I'm talking about, but a really cool cartoon from the 80s. And so, yeah, I also drew a taco. Everyone knows what tacos are. I drew Juliana knows who I'm talking about, and Kenny, or Kenai. Sorry, I'm not sure how to But yeah, like I drew Astro Boy. I got this box and I moved it down here and I made it round and I made it skin color, and then I got this box and put it on top and we made it round. And like, yeah, you can actually, when you're learning CS, you can draw pictures with it. It doesn't just need to be words on the screen. So, yeah.
Love that. Maria, do you have a particular project that you enjoyed working on at work or during the course of the program?
Yeah, look, during the course of the program, probably more so, because that was just for fun. I really loved my portfolio website at the time of doing that, because I felt like I could just be really creative with it and just do everything I loved. Like, I know on the last day where we were presenting our website, I was like, I'm just going to add this feature like 2 hours before we're like showing. I'm like, I just need a random conversation starter. So if someone comes to my table, they can click a button and they'll have a conversation, and I'm coding it and I'm like sitting there like time to present. And I'm like, I just need to add this now. That was really exciting for me. I really enjoyed that. And I really loved our group project. That was so much fun. That was also my favorite project during the course, because I just loved my team. I loved the people I was working with. And I believe that's what got me the software developer role that I'm in at the moment. It taught me so much about working on a development team. And yeah, I loved the group project. That was definitely my favorite. In fact, when I finished, I was like, can you all just come with me to like all of my future jobs? I just want to bring you everywhere. And Kate was saying about after you leave the course. So since graduating from She Codes, I've started something where once a month, for the people that maybe haven't got their jobs in tech yet or are still looking into it, we're going to meet up in Perth, and a few of us have started doing projects together as well. So we've got like a Trello board and a few different things that we're doing. We've done all the wireframes, and we're doing our own projects and working together each month, keeping each other accountable. That's something that I'm enjoying since finishing She Codes.
Amazing. Sarah, have you got a particular thing that you've been working on, and what are you specializing on in your current team? What kind of skills are you using?
Yeah, so we use Python with the Django REST framework and traditional Django. So those are the skills I've learnt at She Codes. So I'm able to understand well enough what's going on. It's just the company code base is huge compared to what we were doing in the in She Codes Plus program. So I'm not specialized in anything. I'm too junior, but I will be specialized in many things one day. And I was just thinking back to the projects I'd done at She Codes as well, and Maria reminded me of my portfolio website as well. So that was a fun project, and that was solely yourself. And I happen to think of recording my screen when I developed the website. So I've got an entire time lapse of creating that HTML CSS portfolio website from start to finish, which is a great reminder, which I'm proud of, which is nice to watch. Yeah,
so fun. How have I not seen this?
Well, I don't know. I did see you on showcase night, but yes, that was a busy night, so I'll send it to you.
Amazing. I love doing this, and then I get to learn things. I really do get the coolest opportunity to hang out with all those amazing, beautiful women and learn cool stuff. Thank you, Sarah. We will move on to what was your biggest challenge over the course of the program? So like, it's lots of fun, lovely things, but was there anything that was particularly challenging for you? Either technically challenging or something else, like fitting things into your life, or yeah, what was the challenge for you?
Other than like the obvious, so learning something new, I mean, I was somewhat familiar with some of the concepts already, thankfully, so I didn't feel completely unbeknown to what was going on, but it was still very challenging. I found more just the time management. It's a boot camp, it's intensive. As you were saying, 5 to 10 hours outside of turning up Tuesday evening, late after work, and then Saturday morning was tiring for 6 months. But at least we were all together doing it. So there was a great sense of camaraderie whilst doing it. And again, that structure and the support saw you through. So time management was most difficult, perhaps, because I believe we are all very capable women of learning coding. It was just a matter of being able to let it sink in and being able to have enough time to focus on it and learn it. So it was the time factor overall. Yeah, but we made it.
You did, and look at you now.
Look at me now.
Maria, did you have anything different or anything you wanted to add?
Look, probably not different. For me, it was time management as well, like especially during the course, you know, starting a new job whilst still doing She Codes. That was really hard. I also got COVID at the same time too. So I got COVID, doing She Codes, starting a new job. So burnout was a real thing. That was really difficult for me. But that's a me thing. Also, I do not do moderation at all. I really struggle with it. So on the other side of that, I think having the support of the people that I was with, feeling safe and comfortable to be honest about that made a huge difference. And the lead mentor, lead educator at the time, being so open about mental health and all of that stuff, actually, I felt very supported through that. And I do think it taught me a lot about my very busy life now. Yeah, so that was my hardest thing as well. It was time management, and not because I was expected to put in an extra 20 or 40 hours a week, but just because I don't know how not to do that, really. I'll be honest. I loved it so much. It was hard for me to not do that, really.
I think we talk a little bit about I've had someone say to me before that it's taught them how to time box problems and, you know, figuring out how to fit things in. So, but yeah, you get down a rabbit hole of, I just want to fix this one thing. And, you know, then you're hours later being like, oh my God, now I've done these 11 billion things and it's 3 a.m. and what have I done? How did I get to here? I'm conscious of the time. We've got about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll have a couple of minutes for anyone on the call to ask some questions. So if you want to pop them in the chat, if you've got any questions, so that we can start running through those in a moment, either for me about the program or for any of our lovely guests. Feel free to start dropping those in now. And for my 3 panelists, what would your biggest or best advice be to anyone who's thinking about a career in tech, either with us or without us? What is your wisdom that you want to share with the 30 odd people on the call today? I'm going to start with Jo.
Is this if they actually start studying, or if or when you decide to study? My biggest advice always is go to meetups. So if you can get the app Meetup and look up things like SID.js, whatever language you're learning at the time. Ruby on Rails is a big one as well, except no, you guys don't do Rails, do you? No, you do Django and whatnot. But look up on Meetup, SID.js is a big one. You will meet people and you will be super uncomfortable the first several times you go. Take a friend, even if they don't code, take a friend, because you know what? Neither of you will understand what they're talking about for a really long time. But keep going. You will meet people, you will get there early. I find early is easier because there's just random one-off people, and so it's easier to just sort of chat. And I'm not saying go out of your way, you just happen to go get some pizza and you're standing next to the person, you say hi, you start talking. And you'll just keep running into the same people. There's also a lot of recruiters at these things, and they will notice that, oh, I keep seeing this person turn up. When I got to the end of my course at Coder Academy, I had one of the recruiters who I'm still really good friends with now. She was like, you're finishing soon, aren't you? Give me your resume. You'll be so easy to get a job for. I see your face at these things all the time. People know that you're keen. They know that you're enthusiastic, that you are here, that you're here to learn, that you'd just be really easy to get a job for. Because for a junior, when you are starting out in the industry, they know that you're not real bright. You don't know a lot of stuff yet. You think you do, but you don't. And the biggest thing that you can show them is the fact that you're keen to learn and keen to be there, and you are easy to get along with, basically. People want to work with people that are easy to get on with and people that are keen to do their job. So turning up to meetups, just turn up to them regularly. Show your face at stuff, go to hackathons, all these sorts of things. That would be my number one.
Nice. Maria?
I would say my number one thing is finding a community, which I guess is similar to what Joe's saying. That would be my definite number one. I think the last few jobs I've been offered and have interviewed for, they haven't even read my resume. It's community is really important. The other thing I would say is make sure to do a little bit of code every day when you're starting out. It's no use doing a big 8, 10, 12-hour chunk and then not doing it for a few weeks, because you'll forget everything that you've done. I think it's way better to just do, even if it's just 30 minutes a day, just do that and do that consistently every day. And I think that's probably a way better way to learn. And I think rather than deep diving into a million different YouTube videos, just even if you don't want to do this kind of course, there are plenty of free online courses on Free Code Camp. There's Scrimba, there's lots of different things. If people add me on LinkedIn after, I can discuss it more. And then follow a structured program that has a community that you can ask help to as well. She Codes has that. We have a Slack group, and then you can ask questions as well. It's really important. Rather than getting stuck for 10 hours, someone can help you in 5 minutes.
Nice. Sarah?
Brilliant. Yeah, we've touched on the two main ones, meetups and community. That's fantastic. I would say just the fail aspect. I think a lot of people and a lot of women going into a male-dominated industry are very fearful of failing, and especially learning something they're not familiar with. So the motto "fail fast" has been beneficial to me. It's okay to fail, and then fail fast. That's more efficient. You can figure out the solution sooner by doing that. And if you've got a desire and a will to learn and figure it out, then consider yourself, already hired, because with that attitude, you will learn what you need to, and you'll just keep learning. And that's just so beneficial. So that is what I would say. Fail fast and be okay with it.
Nice. There's a thing that I heard once called flirning, just like failing through learning or learning through failing. Anyway, I just think it's such a fun word to say, flirning. We've got a couple of questions that have popped up in the chat. So I can see that Joe is already answering one of them. But how open is the course for women who are already in the tech industry who want to transition to a dev role? I assume that one is for me. Yes, we do have quite a few people who have been working in tech, other areas of tech, so they're like product owners or have done a little bit of tech before, but are looking to transition into being software developers. That's totally fine. And we've got people at all kinds of different skill levels. So like Maria was talking about before, she'd been self-teaching herself a little bit before joining the program. We've also had some people who are starting out like pretty much fresh and haven't done anything before. So yeah, totally open to people at various stages along their journey. The next question, so what's something that you were surprised to find out after getting a technical role, good and bad? And is there anything that you wish that you knew earlier? Anyone want to take that one?
I mean, I suppose me, considering how new I am, but then that's also perhaps not accurate because I'm so new. So wish I'd known earlier and what is beneficial. Surprisingly, and also not surprisingly, is just how helpful everyone is at my company. And I think that's in general the wider, the industry this is, as we were saying, the community before, meetups and She Codes, the support is unreal. I have not experienced this in any other industry. Joe, you were saying, you work hard and then you get logged with someone else's work. but I can see what you mean by if you work hard, you get rewarded in tech, at least where I'm working and what I've seen so far. What I wish I'd have known earlier. There's always so much I could have known, but I'm here now and I know sufficient enough to make everything work out. It's just a hard time getting my head around specific things company-wise, but that will come with time. So I don't think I need to stress out, or anyone starting a new job should be feeling stressed out starting it. It's a you got the time and the effort, and then you're gonna make it work. So hope that answers the question.
Nice. I think Joe has answered most of the rest of the questions. So we had a question of from landing your first dev role, how would you describe the pace through your career? And I would probably agree. So Joe said depends on your role and your manager, and depends on the kind of company that you're working for. So sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's slower, but there's like a million different kinds of roles and different kinds of companies, and not everything is going to work for everyone. Do either of Maria, Sarah have anything to add to that? Sarah's probably a little new. You've been there for 4 weeks. Maria, anything you can add to that?
I think for me, I would agree with what Joe said, definitely. And I think also with myself is how far I develop and how far I progress has a lot to do with me and my own mindset as well. If I sit there and I don't want to ask questions because I don't want to look stupid, I don't want to ask for help, and I'm not going to get any further just trying to solve everything on my own. I think seeking out support and continuing my learning in my own time is something I have to do, as well as at work. Like my role is a contractor role. So in terms of my learning and development, I still do a lot of that outside of work. And I have to take control of my career and my learning myself. And that's where I am now doing at least the 30 minutes to an hour every day to continue my learning. And I think that is what will and is furthering my knowledge and my career personally.
Amazing. Joe, do you have something you want to jump in?
Talking about like learning and whatnot, a lot of jobs will pay you to learn while you're like during your day. I've had my original managers like, I want you to take the first hour of every single day just to learn something, to do this course, and he pick out a course on Udemy. I find that there's pros and cons to big companies and little companies and how quick you're going to learn as well. Smaller companies like startups and whatnot, you will probably learn a lot and fast because you'll be doing a lot of stuff across the board. I got mates who started in startups and they're way ahead of me now as far as what they know. But I've got the cushier job because in the bigger company, you won't go as fast, but you'll just enjoy the nice lazy pace as well. So I got snacks that I can just walk if I actually go to the office, because I don't have to. There's snacks there, and there's chips and drinks and all sorts of crazy crap. And we got Christmas parties on Darling Harbour, and like I'm fine not learning as fast as they are. So it just depends what your goals are. But yeah, like a lot of companies are like, you know, we want you to learn this, so take an hour a day or the last half of the day or whatever to learn while you're here, while we're paying you.
Amazing. It has just gone 6:30 in my time zone, which is 8:30 or 9:30 depending on where you are in the world. So we're going to leave that there, but a huge thank you to our amazing panelists, Joe, Maria, Sarah. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you to all of our lovely guests who've joined the call, all 30 of you. Thank you for giving up an hour of your evening to come have a little bit of a chat with us. I hope that you've learned something. Feel free to connect with myself. So I'm Kate Kirwin. You can find me on everywhere. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or send us an email either to myself or the rest of my team. We're hello@shecodes.com.au, and we have the lovely Angela who is on the call hiding behind that purple She Codes logo, who will be able to answer some of your questions. If you've got any other burning questions, please feel free to share all of the information that you've learned tonight with anyone that you know in Brisbane and Perth and Sydney. Hopefully we will see you soon when we've finalised some some of our partnerships. Have a lovely night, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao.